afternoon and welcome aboard. My name is Jennifer and I'll be your tour guide today. Sailing us around the harbor at the helm we have Captain Mort and his first mate is Brian. Helping me here at the passenger level we have Cora and Stephanie. On behalf of Harbour Cruises, the captain and crew, we are delighted to welcome you aboard the motor paddle vessel Constitution. Before we begin our tour of the spectacular Burrard Inlet, I would like to have your attention for a few safety announcements. Life jackets can be found in the perimeter bench sitting on both A deck, this is the first deck you're boarded on, as well as on C deck, the uppermost deck of our vessel. Also on C deck, you'll find our life rafts. In the unlikely event of an emergency, we ask that you please follow the direction of the captain and crew, who are fully trained in marine emergency procedures. Smoking is not permitted in the interior space of our vessel and is only to take place on the uppermost deck at least 6 meters from any open doorways. Now feel free to visit our outside decks, but be advised that the ship's horn is quite loud and may sound periodically during the cruise. Please be careful when moving about the vessel. Use those handrails when going up and down the stairs. Mind the sill at the base of our doorways, and please do not run on the decks or climb on any of the railings. Parents keep small children in view at all times, and for safety reasons, small children are not permitted on the outside decks without adult supervision. Once again, if you're looking for the washrooms or heads, you'll find them on the first level on A deck, and they're located on either side of our stairs. Also on A deck, we do have tea and coffee available. Now, if you have any questions or concerns throughout the tour, feel free to ask any one of the crew members and we'll be happy to assist you. Thank you and enjoy the tour. Stern wheeler that you're on board was built for Harbour Cruises at the Hour shipyards in North Vancouver and was launched in July of 1983. The paddle wheel on the stern of our vessel is the only means of propulsion as we will cruise around this harbour at a comfortable speed of 6 knots or about 11 kilometers per hour. She was modeled after the beautiful stern wheelers that used to operate throughout British Columbia many years ago. And it was named after the Canadian Constitution Act of 1982. This gave Canada full and final independence from the United Kingdom. The city of Vancouver, a temperate rainforest, is 136 years young. It was incorporated in April 6 of 1886. However, records show the presence of indigenous people here in this region as far back as 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. It wasn't until 1791 that Europeans discovered this part of the world while searching for an entrance to the so-called Northwest Passage. The Spanish were the first to arrive, but it was British Captain George Vancouver who in the following year made it all the way into the inner harbor. He made this place the Burrard Channel after his Navy friend Sir Harry Burrard. In 1858, the Fraser River Gold Rush brought around 30,000 American prospectors here to the province. Fearing a takeover, the British government decided to establish the colony of British Columbia. Today, the city of Vancouver has just over 662,000 residents and is the most densely populated city here in Canada. It's also the 4th most densely populated city in North America, just after New York City, San Francisco, and Mexico City. International trade is Vancouver's largest industry, and that's largely due to its role as Canada's port to the Pacific Rim. Now, throughout our tour of the harbour, keep your eyes open for some local wildlife. Throughout the day today, we've actually been seeing a number of harbour seals. We've also been fortunate enough to see some ospreys and cormorants today. Well, straight ahead just off our bow, you're going to see a seaplane coming in for a landing. Just up ahead, this is where the seaplane terminal is here for the city. And many of these planes belong to Harbour, and this is the world's largest seaplane airline. All planes connect downtown Vancouver to islands and communities along the coast, including our capital, Victoria. While it can take you up to 4 hours to travel to Victoria by car and ferry, one can travel via seaplane in approximately 30 minutes. Most of these float plane companies will also offer flight seeing tours, which is an ideal way of getting a new perspective of the surrounding mountains and nearby glaciers. to receive $100 million in investments from the British government. They first tried to establish a mill brought to point in Stanley Park. However, the rough currents in a nearby reef thwarted those efforts. Now, due to a number of difficulties, Stamp left the company less than 2 years later, and the site eventually became Hastings Mill. It was effectively a company town and also contained a school and the Hastings Mill store. This mill was vital to Vancouver's economy, and it's right up until its closures in the 1920s. Looking over to our right-hand side, our starboard side, just along the water's edge, you're going to notice a large smokestack with a yellow brick building behind it. This is part of the Rogers Sugar Refinery. Rogers Sugar was incorporated in the mid-1800s by a very young Benjamin Tingley Rogers. At the young age of only 24 years old, Rogers saw an opportunity here to open up a refinery here in Canada. Now, he received $50,000 from a New York-based investors. They saw promise in the young man's plans to open up a refinery here using Canada's new terminus, Vancouver. When Rogers arrived here to the city, he received 10 years of free land and 15 years of free water. Rogers Sugar is now the largest sugar refinery here in Canada. It produces over 240,000 tons of sugar each year. It's now owned by a Quebec-based company called Lantique. And for those of you who are wondering what type of barge this one is here beside us on our starboard side, the yellow and blue one, well, this is a fueling barge. You'll also notice a new fueling barge that's fueling up the large container vessel just off in the distance to our right. Looking way off in the distance to our starboard side, you're going to notice two bridges spanning what is called the Second Narrows. These two bridges link up the cities of Vancouver and North Vancouver. The smaller green bridge is the Canadian National Rail Bridge. It was built in 1969 to replace the original Second Narrows Bridge. When the first bridge was constructed in 1926, it was actually a small island that sat in the middle of the Narrows, blocking marine traffic. Now, despite warnings from the local First Nations that the island was haunted by evil spirits, planners decided to destroy it anyway. Well, it must have unleashed a curse, because within the first 5 years of the bridge's opening, it suffered over 20 collisions. Today, the center deck rises to allow large ships to pass, and it only ever lowers for the crossing of a train. Now, the larger bridge that we see over there, well, that opened up in 1960, but not without its own tragic story. During construction, the entire north arm of the bridge collapsed, killing 18 ironworkers and injuring dozens of others. This remains one of the greatest disasters in the history of Vancouver, and for this reason, the bridge was rededicated in 1994 to the Ironworkers Memorial Second Narrows Crossing. Now this beautiful mountain range we see here, these are called the North Shore Mountains. They are part of the Coast Mountain Range, which extends from Vancouver all the way up to the Alaskan coast. The mountain that's directly in front of us with the white strip at the top, well, this is Grouse Mountain. That white strip you see there is a ski run. It offers skiing and snowboarding during the winter time and hiking and camping in the summertime, as well as many festivities that happen up at the top. Grouse Mountain was named after a hunting party discovered blue grouse at the peak. It has been used by Vancouverites for over a century as a recreational hiking trip. Now, for those people who don't want to take the gondola up to the mountain summit, can often be found on the infamous Grouse Grind Trail. This is a 2.9 kilometer trail, also known as Mother Nature's Stair Climber. The most fitness enthusiasts can complete this hike in approximately 1 hour. The fastest record to date is held by a local named Sebastian Salas at exactly 25 minutes and 1 second. Also at the top of the peak, if you can see it in amongst the clouds, you might notice a wind turbine up there. Well, this is British Columbia's first high-altitude wind turbine, standing at 76 meters in height. It also provides 25% of the resort's electricity. Looking straight ahead just off our bow, well, we're approaching the beautiful city of North Vancouver. However, many decades ago, this was once known the great town of Moodyville. Moodyville does predate Gastown, and it opened in response to the inlet's very first successful sawmill. It opened in 1865 by American logger Sewell Prescott Moody. The mill gained notable reputation for producing the best lumber on the West Coast, and he shipped cargo to Mexico, China, Peru, as well as Hawaii. Now, Moody ran his mill with an extremely firm hand. No alcohol was allowed on this side of the inlet. So naturally, many of his workers would find ferry rides, taking them over to the South Shore, over to Gassy Jack Saloon in Gastown. Moody oversaw this region's first school, the first telegraph line west of New Westminster, and the first electric lighting anywhere north of San Francisco back in 1882. But tragically, at the age of 41, Moody drowned in a shipwreck off the Washington coast, and by the turn of the century, Moodyville was a ghost town. Decades later, it was built over by the ever-expanding North Vancouver. Over to our right-hand side, or starboard side, you're going to notice a large cruise ships here in the docks. This is a brand new cruise ship. It's a hybrid electric diesel cruise ship. And it's sitting in what's known as the Vancouver Dry Docks. This is the largest floating shipyard on Canada's west coast. In the blue dry dock, you can see a Vancouver sea bus. Now, to get one of these vessels into the dry dock, well, it begins by arranging keel blocks on the floor to form a cradle for the ship's hull. The boats are then placed over those keel blocks. The water is then pumped out from inside the walls and will bring the ships up with it. That large dry dock can handle a ship up to 36,000 tons. It can handle a ship up to 180 meters long and 45 meters wide. These dry docks can actually handle 15 vessels simultaneously. On our starboard side, you'll notice a large gray pier. Well, this was once home to the Burrard Dry Dock. It was incorporated in 1905 as the Wallace Shipyard Company. The shipbuilding company built over 450 ships, and during World War I, it built the first deep-sea steel-hulled ships here in Canada. But most famously, in 1920, first ship to circumnavigate North America, and it was the first ship to travel the Northwest Passage from west to east. The Sage Rock now sits in the Vancouver Maritime Museum and can be boarded by visitors. If you haven't had the opportunity to go see the museum yet, I highly recommend it. It's quite interesting to see the St. Rock in person. This large red steel tower with the letter Q up at the top, well, this is the Lonsdale Quay. This is the North Shore Transit Hub. Lonsdale Quay opened up in 1986 as part of a carnival theme marketplace. It has over 80 shops and services, as well as a fresh food market, boutique hotel and spa, and it hosts numerous events and festivals throughout the year. Just beside Lonsdale Quay is the Sea Bus Terminal, and you can see a sea bus in there at the moment. They're loading more passengers to take the south side. The Vancouver Sea Buses have been operating here since 1977 as a commuter ferry service between downtown Vancouver and the North Shore. They have a total of 4 catamarans. Each one will carry 385 passengers. They will cross this inlet in exactly 12 minutes. The sea buses are rarely taken off duty for maintenance. They have a 99.9% reliability record, and this is a record unmatched in North America. The lighthouse that we see here is one of 2 lighthouses in Stanley Park. The other one is located at the base of Lionsgate Bridge. The one that we see here off to our right is called the Brockton Point Lighthouse, and it's named after Sir Francis Brockton. He was the first person to discover coal in this area. The original lighthouse was built in 1890, but the structure that we see there today was built in 1915. That small black arch that you see at the bottom where people can walk underneath, well, that was originally intended to be part of a boathouse. However, these plans were later scrapped due to the treacherous currents at this point. Circling around the Stanley Park shoreline is the seawall. This is a stone perimeter designed to protect the shoreline from erosion. Construction of the seawall first began in the 1890s, however much of it was constructed in the earliest 20th century under the watchful eye of James Cunningham. He was a master stonemason here in Vancouver back in 1931. Now, James Cunningham was so fond of this project that he often worked tirelessly even while sick, and at least on one occasion he was seen working in his pajamas. Today, the seawall is a 22-kilometer recreational pathway that begins here in Cold Harbour, extends into False Creek, and ends in Kitsilano.
မပါရုံနဲ့ပြောသေးတယ်
Richard's community attack on Hour Vancouver is named after Captain Richards for his early surveillance efforts.
Hi.
Looking back over to our right-hand side, our starboard side, the small rocky island that we're going to be passing by, well, this is called Dead Man's Island. The island got its name when European settlers discovered hundreds of red cedar boxes wrapped in the upper boughs of the trees. At the time, this island was used by the Squamish First Nations as a traditional tree burial ground. Now, as per tradition, the higher the cedar coffin was suspended in the tree, the higher the social standing of the person it contained. The British then later used this island as a quarantine facility and burial ground for the smallpox victims back in the 1890s. Today, this island is now home to our Canadian Naval Reserve Division called the HMCS Discovery. The name Discovery actually comes from Captain George Vancouver's vessel. He sailed on the HMS Discovery when he arrived here to the inlet. The naval station opened up here in 1944. Enter the waters of Cold Harbour, keep your eyes open for more harbour seals. Quite often we'll see them swimming around in a boat. We also have a few families of river otters here in Cold Harbour. We'll especially see them swimming around the boats and alongside the water's edge near the seawall. Now coming up here on our left-hand side, our port side, if you're wondering what the silver structure is here on the point, well, this is an artist's rendition of the old fishing huts they used to run up and down Cold Harbour many years ago. It's painted in a luminescent paint, so at night it'll give it a faint glow. Throughout our tour of the inlet, you might have noticed quite a few blackbirds swimming around and about. Well, coming up in just a few moments, you're going to see more of these blackbirds perched on top of the pylon coming up here on our right, our starboard side. These blackbirds are called cormorants. Cormorants can be found all around the world. They're mainly fish eaters, but they've also been known to dine on water snakes as well as eels. These birds can dive extremely deep to catch their prey. They can dive down to 45 meters. Coming up here on our left side, our port side, we're going to be passing by the Weston Bayshore Hotel. This hotel sits on a part of land that used to be known as Kanaka Ranch. By the 1890s, Vancouver had an unusually large number of Hawaiian immigrants. They were brought here by the Hudson's Bay Company to help with the fur trading operations. Well, many of these Hawaiians settled here on the south side of Cold Harbour, and their children went to school over in Hastings Mill, near Gastown. Bayshore Hotel once had a very famous guest. Back in 1972, it was home to American aviation magnate and noted eccentric Howard Hughes, who spent some time here. He spent exactly 5 months and 28 days in the top 2 floors in his hermetically sealed suite. If he were to stay one more day here in Canada, that meant he would have had to pay a very large Canadian tax bill. Well, Mr. Hughes didn't like that idea so much, so in the middle of the night he packed up all his belongings without even telling the staff and vacated the premises. He moved to his last known place of residence before his death, which was in Acapulco, Mexico. The last item on our tour today, take a look straight ahead at the end of Cole Harbour. You will notice a large brown and white building of a Tudor style. Well, this is home to the Vancouver Rowing Club. This rowing club and the building you see there was built in 1911. This rowing club boasts more Olympic medals than any other rowing club here in Canada. Most notably at the 1992 Summer Olympic Games over in Barcelona, Spain, they won a stunning 9 gold medals. Also, if you're walking the seawall in and around the rowing club, keep your eye on the water's edge because there's a family of river otters right below the rowing club. In just a few moments, we'll be returning back to the Harbour Cruises docks. For your safety, we do ask that you please keep the stairwells and entranceways clear until the vessel has come to a full and complete stop at the dock. We hope that you enjoy your tour with us today. On behalf of the Harbour Cruises, the captain and crew, we'd like to thank you for sailing with us. If you have any questions regarding the tour, feel free to come visit me in the next few moments, and I'll try my best to answer them. Once again, my name is Jennifer. I'm located downstairs on A deck at the bar. For those passengers who are here for the Tourism Challenge and need your passport stamp, please come see me at the bar. Before our arrival at the docks, this is also a good opportunity to use the washrooms or heads, as there are no public washrooms in the vicinity. Well, folks, we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day here in the beautiful city of Vancouver, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you, and have a lovely day.